Congressman, it's good to have you here. You formerly were on the Intelligence Committee.
Yeah, 8 years.
This sort of, my fears here, there's both how much they screwed up here, there's the lack of the accountability, and then there's just like the general competence of the national security team.
Yeah, and the lying, right? They're compounding the mistake with just lying to us and gaslighting us. And most Americans, from you and I to Dave Portnoy at Barstool Sports, are saying, like, stop gaslighting me. Like, we see what you did. Just tell us how this is not going to happen again.
It's kind of scary to me to have this guy running DOD, and you would think maybe this moment might shake something loose.
Well, it's also a green light now to our enemies, right? They're like, oh, these are the guys running your national security? Okay, like, we could probably hit you. I thought the best question, frankly, was from Jimmy Gomez. It was on the second day, and he's one of the junior members of the Intel Committee, and so he went near the end. And he said, were any of you aware as to whether Pete Hegseth had been drinking before he leaked classified information? Which was a completely fair question. Like, who cares, like, if anyone in America drinks, except the guy who promised he would stop drinking because he had an acknowledged problem when he was going to do this job. So the question of did he keep his promise was completely legitimate considering all the baggage he brought to the job.
Stopping attacks is so important at so many levels. First, the sort of moral level and the harm and safety of the American people, but also what happens after that.
That's right.
You know, if 9/11 never happened, the world's a very different place. If October 7th never happened, the world's... And so the people that are now charged with that kind of thing, having this level of competence is pretty worrying.
And it's also a deterrent, right? Like, stopping an attack shows the enemy that you're watching and you're up for what it takes to stop them. And these guys are not up for it. And I also have not heard from any of them that they're not going to do this in the future. And when the president says today, well, maybe it was a problem with Signal. Okay, well, if it was a problem with Signal, they shouldn't be using Signal, for operational activity. So there's nothing good that comes out of this. And every single person on that group text, because none of them said, hey, who's the weird number in here that no one recognizes? They should all lose their access to national security information, because that's what would happen, as you pointed out earlier, to anyone else in the government.
The one thing that I haven't heard anyone say, even Trump, who doesn't seem to quite understand what Signal is, though people have clearly been trying to explain it, is that they all seem to be conducting classified work on their personal phones. Like, I don't think these are their government phones. In fact, Steve Witkoff, who sort of had this long post about, I left my phone at home, it was because that was his personal phone, which he didn't take with him to Russia, which, again, good idea to not do that.
Bare minimum that he passed.
Bare minimum, but the idea that they're all just walking around with personal phones is just a gaping security hole, and that goes all the way through to them putting Starlink on the roof of the White House.
And so we're not helpless against that in Congress. Every single hearing, every single official in national security, we should ask them, are you using your personal phone? Are you using Signal to conduct operations? And in the courts where we find that they are, we should keep going to them and pressing them. We've got 2 years to hold all of this together before we win the midterm. So we just have to essentially allow democracy to live long enough so that hopefully it can live forever. But it's going to take all of us, to press them in every way.
You had not been in USA Today, I believe, and you said that individuals who recklessly expose our troops should never handle classified information again. This is a monumental mistake, not one where you'd get a do-over. They should all be fired. That is to be expected when anyone in the U.S. government holds security clearance and shows such poor judgment and sensitive information. It strikes me that one of the big differences that happens here is if this were a Democrat in a Democratic administration, you would hear internal dissent from Democrats.
Yes.
You just would.
That's right.
I mean, we went through it. We watched what happened with Hillary Clinton, right? We watched President Joe Biden take a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney, elevate him to special prosecutor, who then indicted and convicted his own son.
Right.
The Republicans don't seem to ever want to do that, even when the stakes are as high as they are here.
And they will never do it. And so we shouldn't count on some Republican cavalry of courage that's going to come save us. They're not going to do it. They're all going to vote for the reconciliation bill. They're all going to shrink when it comes to holding Donald Trump accountable. So it's really on us, frankly, to just go beat them. That's our way out.